This is a Montana 750i Garmin. The only difference between a 750 and a 750i is the satellite help button. So they both run some sort of communicator, but this one has the Garmin communicator built in to press the SOS button if you really need to. So when you switch it on, it will either come up to this screen or maybe it will start off in that screen. So just to get to your map, just hit that, back to the map. Home, this is where we go to look at all the settings and setups. So we'll go into setup, and the first thing you want to do is be able to read the screen. So you go to display, and the backlight, make sure it says stays on, not one of these other ones where it will time out in a minute or so. Auto lock the screen. The screen will lock when the backlight times out. You don't want that either. So, I'm sorry, we want auto lock off. We want to lock it in this one in particular. I have it locked in landscape. You could have it locked in portrait if that's the way you want to have it, but lock it in the way you're going to look at it. Otherwise, it might automatically change from one screen to another. We'll just go back here. Sorry, I thought we had, we'll hit the system. Satellite, you don't need to worry about. Advanced setup here. So this is important. The external power off. You can either have it so that it stays on all the time, or you can have it prompted so that, you know, whenever you switch your ignition off, it'll ask you, do you want to leave it on, or it'll switch off. Your choice which way you leave it there. Most people would probably have it in the on position all the time. Just don't forget at the end of the day to either take it out of the cradle or switch it off. External power on. This means that when you turn the key on, the GPS will come on as soon as the accessory power is on. If it's wired, you know, through your accessory power and not through a direct connection to the battery. Okay, so another setting here you might use a bit is Wi-Fi. So here, this one's connected to my local network here. That enables it then to update its maps, update the software pretty much automatically. It'll come up with a message when I switch it on saying update required. You just hit the button and leave it switched on, and it will update your maps and the software, sorry. So while we're talking about maps, this is very important. So we're going to go in here, orientation, we'll want track up. In here, we want the dashboard as automotive and configure maps. So we're going to choose which maps we're going to use here. I notice when it's got this option for automatic maps where it selects the best map for your activity. I tried that and it didn't really work for me. In the manual, contrary to the other video on the earlier Montana, this one says you should always have that base map switched on. I'm not sure what happens if you have it switched off. I haven't tried it. I just followed the instructions. So then these maps were installed, the Topo Australia, City Navigator, and then OzTopo is a map I've installed, and which is the one that we tend to use a lot more for the off-road activities. So OzTopo is switched on, and basically that and City Navigator is switched on at the moment. I don't know, you can have it switched on, switched off. The Montana, the 750 at least, seems to handle running those two maps. If you've got it on, you'll find it's a lot easier to search for locations. If it's off, it won't find the Birdsville Hotel, but when it's on, you type in Birdsville Hotel and it'll find it for you. And that way you can do an automatic route to that place if you're a bit lost or you need to get somewhere in a hurry. Okay.
So just when you're buying this, guys, if, for example, it doesn't include OzTopo, They cost about $140 for that map set, and that is what you need if you're going to go riding in the bush.
Yeah. Okay, we've just hit that return button. We're going back. We're going to hit advanced setup in here. So important again, auto zoom. So we want auto zoom off. And that way you can select how much zoom you're using. And normally John recommends around 300 metres, unless you're in the outback or something where you might go up to 500, 800 metres. But 300 metres will give you a bit of a view around you and keep it a constant thing in your mind so that you know when a corner's coming up, you can look at the screen and say, okay, I know I've got 100 metres to go before I get to that U-turn I've got to slow down for. This one gives you all sorts of levels of detail. I have this one set on more, which is sort of a little bit above the normal setting, but if you get too much in there, it gets hard to read the map. There's just way too much data on the map in front of you. You can set any of these things. The icon for the vehicle doesn't matter. Text size. Again, map speed, you set it fast because it's running on external power, so it doesn't matter if it's chewing a bit of power up, but it just means that your map will work a bit quicker. That's about all on that screen. I think you suggested, John, that should be off. I didn't notice any difference in this when it was on or off, but using your tracks at least. What else do we want? Routing. This is super important in routing. So on this unit, which is different again to the earlier Montana, if you switch direct routing on in this unit, it will then give you a straight line from point to point. So you do not want to use that. It might be mountains, rivers, whatever in between you. So switch the direct routing off. Lock on road, yes. Motorcycle driving, I found when I switched that on, it also gave me a straight line from point to point, so it must be meant for crossing a desert or something like that. And the course navigation method, these are things that aren't in those earlier Montanas. I have switched that on to roads and trails. Otherwise, as you can see in this little map here, it takes you just from point to point.
So which setting in activity should you use?
When
you're trying to follow a GPX file on a minor track.
I just have it. I don't have any of those switched on at all. I don't choose any of those. I just leave it at activity. Oh, sorry, where were we? In routes, weren't we? Routing, motorcycle driving. I just leave. I had it on motorcycle driving, but I switched it off because it kept wanting to give me a straight line.
So currently nothing is selected. Yeah.
Now the difference here might be because we're trying to use a GPX track. If you're using the automatic calculation, then these settings could be quite different, but I haven't tried to use them on this particular unit, but I suspect that's what they're for.
So nothing is selected?
Nothing. Well, I've selected motorcycle driving, but then because you've got to select something.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
But then I switched it off. So that, if that was on like that, well, see, you can. See, that goes route transitions auto, and I'm not sure what that means. To be honest, I just don't know what it means, so I leave it.
It didn't work.
So we've got to get back to how do we have that, John, on the. Now I don't even know where they were. No. So, there we go. So we go back to direct routing. If that direct routing is on yes, then these ones come into play.
Leave it on no.
Leave it on no. I know it works fine because we've just been out all weekend with it. I think, sorry, we'll go back to routing, advanced setup in routing. Make sure the off-route calculation is in off. The minimise time thing really doesn't come in because that's only if it's calculating from a City Navigator map to make you a route. And the avoidance setup, so you can tick any of these things to avoid them. In this particular case, we have them all off because if you're riding around in the bush, they just don't matter. What else do we need to look at here, John? Tracking this auto track.
Where does
is
a
on.
track? Where do you find a track that you've imported?
Okay, so we will go back out here, which is that first screen. We're either at Maps or at Home. When you go to the Home screen, you will have Save Tracks. So you've imported something from your computer or Wi-Fi or whatever.
A GPX file.
A GPX file, or whatever you can bring in, and it will sit in there. So we will have in here, these are the rides we had on the weekend, and it has had that purple line next to those two, and I'm not sure why.
Because it's showing them on the map.
Right, okay. So we've got that.
Going to day one easy.
I'm going to choose day one easy here and see what it looks like. So we tend to like magenta to follow on the map. You can change that color to anything you like. You know, if you want to have it as blue, it will then come up as blue. But what you must do is always have shown on map set to shown on map on. Okay, so we've got our trip set up here, and then you hit this icon over on the side there.
We just got to go back, it wasn't on.
Sorry. Show on map. I'm going to go back to magenta again, our favourite colour. Shown on map is on. We hit this icon here and go. And you can't see it here because we're about 100 kilometres from where this map starts. But if we zoom out far enough, you can see the purple line there, which is showing you the whole route. Where this icon is down the bottom here, here's the start point over there. And there goes your purple line showing you all the way to Stanthorpe, basically.
Yep.
And that's about it. So then when you get to that start point, that line will get a lot bigger and be pointing as track up.
Yeah, what we've found with these more modern units is they really like to receive the updates. So in especially the Zumo units, if you can, go to Garmin Express and attach your GPS, because Garmin Express is the software updating package. And for example, the Zumo units were not showing a track very well. It was a very fine line. It was no bigger than the other lines. And now one of the updates is to provide a thick line to the Zumo units for a track. So if you can, before you do anything else, get onto Garmin Express and upload and do the latest software updates before you do anything else. Even when you buy a new GPS, do that first. Okay, thank you.